You're tuned in to the Kansas City Weather Report, your daily source for the latest local forecast right here in KC. Whether you're planning your commute, weekend barbecue, or just trying to figure out if you need that extra layer, Wes has you covered. So let's dive into today's forecast.
Welcome to the Kansas City Weather Report. I'm meteorologist Wes Peary. Today is Wednesday, December 17th, and here's what's up with the weather. All right, we're in for another nice, warm, breezy day here in Kansas City. Starting things off this morning, temperatures near the freezing mark. It feels like about freezing, uneventful weather to step out the door. Quickly warming up to about 50 degrees by around lunchtime. And this afternoon, it's about 55 to 58 degrees, especially if you're in downtown or listening to me from Johnson County. It's going to be pushing 60 degrees down there. Just really comfortable conditions. Warm for mid-December standards, yes, but the wind should be a little bit lighter today, albeit still noticeable. Fantastic outdoor weather here. As we get to dinner time, and really from around 6 p.m. today until around 6 a.m. tonight into Thursday morning, it'll be about 50 degrees. We kind of just plateau, or just temperatures don't move very much as clouds begin to come in, but during that time, rainfall begins to move through as well. Best chance of rain is between 3 a.m. and 8 a.m. We could end up with about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of rainfall, which is a nice little soaking. Maybe helps wash the streets of the salt, the grime, everything like that, left over from the snow from what was now a little more than 2 weeks ago. It was December 1st in which we got about 3.5 inches of snow. Since then, we've got nothing. Temperatures, again, tomorrow morning are near about 50. They cool off briefly around 8 and 9 o'clock to the middle 40s. Lunchtime, they jump back up to 50 degrees. So you may not notice a whole lot changing if you're inside throughout the morning. But by Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening, a huge drop in temperatures. So from about 50 at noon, by 5 o'clock, it's 35, and it feels more like 20 degrees. By 10 o'clock on Thursday night, it's 25, and it feels more like about 10 or 15 degrees. And now during this period, as the temperatures are staying near 50 at lunchtime and then falling, the wind will be gusting near 50 miles per hour. I think gusts up to 60 miles per hour are possible. They will not exceed 60 miles per hour, but I'd like to put the highest number there so you know what to at least plan for and prepare for. So anything that is inflatable, either tie down or deflate it so it doesn't blow away. Trash day on Thursday is going to end up being a pretty messy one, unfortunately. Just prepare for really windy conditions area-wide on Thursday. Winds do begin to decrease. Noticeably decrease, I think, after 8 o'clock, but it still remains pretty windy up until around midnight, and then things calm down for Friday morning. Friday morning, it feels like about 10 degrees outside, and then Friday will get up near about 45. Again, we still have the same problem in which the warm air tries to come in. I just don't know if it can. So it could be 40 degrees. It could be 50 degrees. So that's why we put our good old foot in the middle there with 45. Either way, it's cooler, I think, compared to what the high temperature was for the previous day, Thursday. All right, back into the 50s then for Saturday, about 50 to 55 for Saturday, about 40 to 45 for Sunday, and then about 50 again for Monday, last day of Hanukkah, by the way. And then we're probably looking at a slew of 50s again. We'll say 50 to 55 degrees Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, Christmas, 55 to 60. After Christmas, it's still looking like about 55 to 60 degrees. Not even going to be all that windy. If you can imagine a map of the United States, you can imagine I-70. You know how I-70 goes from St. Louis to Kansas City, through Topeka, all the way through the state of Kansas, okay? There is a front, we can just call it a stationary front, that is separating the essentially 60 and 70 degree temperatures from the 50s and 40 degree temperatures. 60 to the south of it, 40s and 50s to the north. Kansas City is essentially right on that front. You know how I-70 goes right through Kansas City? That's the situation. We could end up being in the middle 60s there for Christmas and the day after Christmas. Or we could end up being in the middle 50s. And fronts are trying to come through at some point here. So although, yes, it is 7 or more days away, and that forecast can change, it is overall looking like a really warm part of the forecast, and I have very high confidence in saying this is not a snow-making type of forecast either. Now, it may get much more interesting after Christmas, but leading up to Christmas and Christmas Day looks warm, and that bodes very well for travel. It is across much of the country going to be dry and going to be warm as well. So any travel in any state nearby Kansas and Missouri should be just fine. You will have to go into the mountains or you will have to go to the Great Lakes to get any snow for Christmas. It's just going to be way too warm across much of the country to get a white Christmas. Our last white Christmas was 2022, by the way. Recapping the forecast, about 55 degrees today. Rain moves in tonight. Temperatures near 50 degrees around noon on Thursday, and then quickly falling and becoming very windy Thursday. Secure your inflatables. Temperatures on Friday morning near about 18 degrees, feeling like 10, about 40 to 45 for Friday, 50 to 55 for Saturday, 40 to 45 for Sunday, about 50 degrees for Monday, 55 for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Thursday is Christmas, might be 60 degrees. Thanks so much for joining me for this edition of the Kansas City Weather Report. You can find me on social media at West Weather. Have a good one.